I was born into horses. My mother and father ran a stable, a riding stable in England for years, and I was put to work at an early age mucking stalls at 8 years old. My father unfortunately passed away suddenly when I was just 7 years old. My mother carried on with the business, and I helped her more and more as I grew up. When I was 14, I reached the school leaving age in England, which was 14 at that time, and I went to work and I ran the place for her. We had some nice horses, some good people, and it was a good business. I realize now what a great time of my life it was. I always managed to have a very nice horse of my own. It was a 21st birthday present called David Doolittle, and he was a great horse. I hunted him and I showed him in the jumpers. He was the most versatile horse I've ever known. I could do anything with him, and I loved him dearly. After a while, I decided that I wanted to try a new thing, so I came to the States. I answered an advertisement in the Horse and Hound that Nancy Hannum from the Cheshire Hounds had put in for a stable manager, and I got it, and I stayed there for a short time because I knew it wasn't what I wanted. I left there and I went to Cleveland to work for Cyrus Eaton to teach his grandchildren, and he had a group of horses that were just okay for roundabout, but we weeded them out and got some better ones. And then some of his friends sent their children to me, and they boarded with me and I taught them, and we put together what turned out to be the premier junior barn in the country. Pam Carmichael was riding hunters with me. She had two beautiful mares called Chance Step and Lansonette, both great movers and jumpers and dead quiet, which was unusual, but they were beautiful. My equitation star was Drew Davenport, who was deaf. That meant she couldn't speak properly, but she was a wonderful rider. People used to come to just watch her ride. We had a pattern. We would go to Ohio, from Ohio to the East Coast, do 2 to 3 shows, go back to Ohio, lay the horses up for 10 days, then come back to the East Coast, which was very good. It kept those wheels turning, you know. But Pammy had her 2 horses, a small junior and a large junior, and that was about the time when they split them. Until then they went all together. Split them, and she would be champion small and champion large at every show she went to. People would groan when they saw the Acadia Farms van come into the showgrounds. I got burned out. You know, we were on the road the whole time. And I closed the barn and took 3 or 4 horses to Florida. We went to Dillery Beach and stayed with Lynn Firestone at her farm and showed down there a little bit with those horses. After that, I moved to Tallahassee for a short time to manage a barn there. That didn't work out, so I came back and managed the Deerwood Riding Club in Jacksonville, which was pretty successful. They decided to cut back. So I'd met Cheryl at that point, and she came to work for me.
We moved to Pennsylvania and we rented stalls at the old all-around farm where Junie Culp used to be. And I had grown up in Pennsylvania, so I knew the area and had ridden in the area. So Ray found the stalls and said, "Do you want to go to Pennsylvania?" And off we went. And then it was time to start looking for a place of our own, which is when we found a property in Doylestown, and we had to build the barn. It was a big old house built in the 1800s, and Ray designed the barn and built the barn.
I dug the drainage for it myself, and we designed it, and it worked out very well, actually.
And then Ray and one of his best friends, they put up all the post and rail fencing on the whole property, and the ring, and brought in the footing. This was back in the day when you did things yourself. We ran a day camp, and then had the kids on the road. I helped the kids with the ponies. I would school the ponies and get the ponies ready, and he worked basically with the equitation and the junior kids. And then a couple customers got interested in the hunter breeding, and that was kind of when you discovered your passion for hunter breeding.
Yeah. One of my customers got a young horse from Rodney Jenkins called Trouble with Tom, and he was a yearling, and we showed him, and he started doing okay, and it kind of snowballed. I got more and more baby horses, and more in love with them, until I really didn't want to do the show horses anymore. The beauty of the baby horses was the customers didn't ride them. A lot of the customers I didn't even see, except occasionally at a horse show. I mean, I had some come in from Florida, California, all through the South. So those customers only saw them, say, at Devon or another horse show, and they were no problem. I think we were best Pennsylvania bred 8 years in a row. I was leading Pennsylvania handler a number of years, 5, 6 years.
Then we kind of started a small breeding business. We never had any desire or any inkling that we wanted a stallion, but one day a friend of Ray's called and said, "I have a stallion I want to give you." And I said, "You're talking to the wrong person. We're running a show barn here." And then they told me who it was. It was a horse called Grand Prospect. And he was out teaching, so I said, "I'll call you back." And I went down and I told him, and your reply was?
Yes. Send him quickly.
He had known Grand Prospect for years. He stood down in Virginia, and these people wanted out of the business and were getting rid of him. So that's how we ended up with a stud horse, and this was the kindest, fanciest, most gentle horse. We had some lovely, lovely foals from him, and many went on to be champion at Devon and high score winners.
I bred 2 special horses, one called a filly called Anastasia, and a colt called Spanish Spear, both of which I sold to Kenny Wheeler, who was in the market to buy anything that was going to beat him. I sold both of those to him. They were a year apart, with the understanding that I kept them through Devon, showed them through Devon, and then he could take them. Well, both of them were best young horse at Devon. I got Anastasia back from Kenny. She didn't work out over the jumps, so he put her out in the field. And I went down there and I saw him, talked to him, and I said, "Where's Anastasia?" And he said, "Oh, she's out there in the field." I went to see her, and she's as beautiful as ever. And he said, "Do you want her?" I said, "What do you mean?" He said, "I'll give it to you if you like." I said, "Yes, please." Well, I had her, and I started breeding her. And she bred some beautiful foals. But they were the 2 of the most beautiful horses I've ever seen. And they definitely were 2 of the most beautiful I've ever owned. I rode every day. I had a number of horses I showed, mostly green horses, fairly successfully. I mean, I was no Rodney Jenkins, but I won my share. And I had one nice horse that I bought from Danny Lanahan called Beau's Cottage. Fabulous mover, won just about every flat class he ever went in. Firstly, I thought there was a tremendous amount of skill to ride a hunter properly. You know, it's not a matter of just sitting on and cantering around. The most important thing is you have to have a feel for a horse. You have to be sympathetic to your horse. You have to love your horse, and your horse has to love you. Very few people can just get on a horse and go. There's a lot of thought into riding a good hunter course. And of course, in the older days, courses were set where the wagon stopped, they built a jump. They didn't have a tape measure. I mean, strides were variations on going, waiting, slow, fast. You couldn't really get into a rhythm of going as you can now unless you were very good at it and could cover those changes up, because the distances between the jumps would vary so much. You moved along much more, and then at one point, I don't remember when, but Rodney went in and cantered around the ring. Everybody said, "What the hell is he doing? He's going so slow." But it worked. And then that became the fashion to canter around the ring. I judged, I think, every major horse show in the States, some of them several times. Then I took out my steward's license and stewarded a lot of horse shows. And right up until this year, I've done 7 or 8 big shows a year. I'm hoping that by next year, I'll be able to do some more horse shows, because that's my life.
You love the boat.
Yeah, we were boaters for years. We used to go up and down to Florida on a sailboat every year and live on the boat during the winter.
But we used to sail the boat down the intercoastal when we had the big sailboat with the dogs. Sometimes we'd have 5 or 6 dogs going down the intercoastal, and then we'd get to Florida and we'd either anchor out or tie up at a marina, and we lived on the boat during circuit. And on Monday mornings, we had, on everybody's day off, we had more friends than we ever knew were possible that wanted to go sailing.
Yeah.
But, you know, again, it was the best of both worlds, because we had the boat, you know, in the afternoons and the evenings when we were done at the horse show, and we were still working, and so we were able to combine them, and it worked out pretty well.
I've met some wonderful people over the years, known some great horses, been to some wonderful places. I've had a life that's almost beyond description. There have been some ups and some downs, but most of them are ups.